much, thank you.
Thank you.
Nigel, just to BBC now.
Sure.
Oh, squeeze around. Like I'll decide. That's all right. Okay, thank you.
Same again, really.
Okay.
Reaction to, I suppose, a victory, you would see, hands down.
It's a huge victory. I mean, it's very rarely anyone beats the government by taking a judicial review. We've won, and we haven't just won on our behalf, we've won on behalf of 4.6 million people whose vote was being denied, in some cases for the second year in a row. But there's a much deeper principle. We pay council tax, and we should be able, once every 4 years, to judge whether those we voted for are doing a good job. It's called democracy. We've stood up for it, and we've won.
You've called into question Steve Reed's position, given that he wanted to push ahead with cancelling the elections. You think he should resign?
Well, I think for a minister to do something that is clearly unlawful, otherwise they would not have gone and withdrawn themselves from the case on Thursday. And even the boss of the Electoral Commission said what the government was doing was illegal. Seems to me that if a government minister does something illegal, they really ought to resign.
Are you worried about the cost? It is going to cost 63 million.
What price?
It's going to cost 63 million pounds extra.
Yeah.
You campaign on the fact that you're a party that will save money.
What price freedom? What price liberty? What price those that went before us defended the country so we could be a democracy? You know, you can talk to me about 63 million pounds. I don't think you'd even put a price on freedom.
And in terms of what it means for you as a party, clearly you've got a whole bunch more elections that you've got to find candidates for, that you've got to fund. Are you able to do that?
We are capable and able. We've got the biggest membership of any party in the country. We look forward to all these new elections happening with great anticipation.
I'm not going to ask you to make a prediction, but I will ask you about Havering.
Yes.
Actually, you're here in Havering,
Yes.
a council you say you have big hopes here in London. This is a place where you say you can win, but you are doing it with the help, some might say, of retreads. You said you didn't want to be a Conservative Party Mark II, but the people behind you have changed parties. Andrew here has changed parties.
Yes.
Keith over there has changed parties.
Yes.
Are you worried that people who may be tempted to vote for reform in Havering and other parts around London will see the party as a retread?
I said 18 months ago we would replace the Conservative Party, and here in Havering, here in Romford, that's exactly what's happening. And you know, when you're a new party with big ideas, big ambitions, that's great. But the one thing we've lacked is experience. Now, with people like Andrew, Keith, these local councillors here, we've got people who know how the system actually works. So that combination of youthful energy as a political movement with experience, I think is a very powerful one.
And how does a reform leadership in Havering tackle the crippling debts that this council has? It's gone cap in hand to the government twice now to say we can't afford it. Can reform come in and make a difference?
Well, you're quite right. You know, the debts are a massive problem, which is why council tax rises have been what they've been for years. We can't come in and overnight get rid of debt. What we can do is come in and start to look for proper economic savings, start to look for how we can slim down people working in local government, make the thing more efficient, and that's our aim and ambition.
A final one to you, this is just for you, Andrew. You've got it on your leaflet saying you want to take Havering out of London. Really?
Well, so what happened in 1965 was London doubled in size, and in this case, part of what was always Essex found itself Greater London, has found itself living under Mayor Khan. I would suggest to you, a lot of people in Romford aren't very happy about that. I do think a debate here about whether they become a unitary government in their own right, as opposed to Greater London, is something citizens deserve the chance to have a say on. I really do. Yeah, we're delighted. I mean, I was shocked last year when elections were cancelled. I mean, yeah, I get it, you know, if you get a pandemic or foot and mouth disease, there are perhaps reasons why you might postpone elections in certain circumstances for a year. There were no good reasons for it happening last year. This year, the number of councils increased massively, including some, all Tory controlled, Norfolk, Suffolk, East and West Sussex, where for the second year in a row, elections were going to be cancelled. I was pretty shocked by this, and it's why we decided that we'd go to the High Court, we'd go for a judicial review. That was due to be heard this Thursday. The government obviously knew they were going to lose. The boss of the Electoral Commission said what they'd done was illegal. Clearly, the government's own lawyers believed they'd acted illegally, and so they caved in, and 4.6 million people, or should I say 4.6 million council taxpayers, because that to me is the key point, will now get the vote. So yes, it's a legal victory, it's a victory for our party, but above all, it's a victory for freedom and democracy. Well, I think actually, to be honest with you, all the parties will be in a slight state of panic this afternoon, saying, cripes, we've got a lot to do in terms of finding candidates and getting organised. But look, you know, we've got the biggest membership of any party in the country. We've professionalised significantly over the course of the last year. We will be ready for May the 7th in all 30 of these areas. It's amazing, isn't it? I've never promised once in the run-up to May the 1st last year that we'd cut council tax. How could we? We were inheriting heavy debts absolutely everywhere. Have we made £300 million of savings? Yes. Have we got plans to become more efficient and save more in the years to come? Absolutely. And if you look at the council tax rises in areas that are run by reform, they are lower than for the other parties in other areas. And look, you can't just come in to a broken local government system, wave a magic wand and change things overnight, but I believe we're off to a good start. For us, it's another nearly 900 candidates that we have to find across those council areas and county areas, which for us is just not going to be a problem. On legal advice, look, you know, our lawyers look very closely at the legislation, could find no good reason for why Steve Reed, at the behest of Keir Starmer, I suppose, decided to do this. The boss of the Electoral Commission said it was illegal. Clearly, the government's own lawyers said it was illegal. That's why they've withdrawn. They knew they were going to lose in the High Court. And that's why I'm saying, I think for the Minister, Steve Reed, I mean, frankly, you know, is this not a resignation matter? Well, I think if a minister acts in a way that's illegal and tries to, you know, cancel people's democratic rights to vote whilst they're still being charged their council tax, I personally think that it really is a resignation matter, yes. Well, look, you know, if you go back to 2021, when there were some local elections cancelled, well, the reason given was the pandemic, and in certain areas, there was probably a degree of justification for it. Similarly, with foot and mouth disease 25 years ago, you know, there are certain circumstances in which a delay of 1 year, you know, can be acceptable. It wasn't acceptable last year, and it most certainly wasn't acceptable this year. And the level of collusion between the Labour government, the Conservative Party, and even the Liberal Democrats in Cheltenham showed you that parties were using postponing elections as a means of not losing their seats. That's something that clearly wasn't acceptable to us. I mean, if Kemi Badenoch doesn't want to be a dictator, the question really is she a leader? How can you stand up in the House of Commons, senior shadow minister after shadow minister, and say on behalf of the Conservatives it's wrong that elections should be cancelled, and yet 5, you know, of your council areas, in some cases for the second year in a row, want to cancel those elections? Frankly, on this issue, the Conservatives are all over the place and every bit as bad as Labour. I don't think a snap general election is likely. I guess the only thing that would cause it would be a financial meltdown on the bond markets. I don't see a snap election coming, but I do see a government that is losing authority and credibility right across the board. Oh, the change of Prime Minister's coming, don't worry about that. My guess is, after he survived last week, they'll wait until May the 7th, wait for him to carry the can, get rid of him, and then move further to the left. Well, my money would be on Ed Miliband, I think. They'll say he's got the experience, they'll say he's been there before. And you know, if you put me up against a wall, my guess would be it's Miliband that takes over and carries on with his net zero fantasy, which is making Britain poorer and deindustrialising us. That's my guess.